Good morning everyone.
Good morning, ma'am.
How are you all?
Fine, ma'am.
Good. Now see, we have been talking about grammar, reading comprehension, parajumbles, vocabulary. And we have talked about n number of concepts in these subsections, right? And we have also come up with n number of exercises based on these subtopics. And today we are going to talk about one more topic, one more important topic of the entrance examinations, that is para completion. So when I talk about the term para completion, as the term suggests, it means a paragraph is given to you, right? And the last line of the paragraph is removed. It's taken away from the paragraph, and that last line is put in one of the answer choices, right? And among the 4 answer choices which would be given to you, you have to come up with the right answer. You have to find out the sentence which logically completes a paragraph. Is it clear to everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
So para completion basically takes care of one's comprehending skills, one's logical bent of mind, and how well versed he or she is with the subtleties of grammar. So mind it, I have talked about 3 things over here. Para completion takes care of one's comprehension, that is comprehending skills, how well a person can understand that paragraph, right? Second is what kind of logical bent does he possess, he or she possess, right? And third is how well versed is he with the rules of grammar, right? Is it clear to everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Any confusions, any questions, please ask me. Yes, Laksh?
Ma'am, you talked about logical skills, comprehending skills and ma'am grammatical skills.
Yes.
So ma'am, how does it take care of all the 3?
Perfect. Very good question, Laksh. I'll come to that. Now, Laksh asked us, as I discussed, that para completion basically takes care of one's comprehending skills, it takes care of one's grammatical skills, and it takes care of one's logical bent of mind. Now, his question is that how does it take care, how does para completion take care of all of these, and probably how should we take care of all of these? How do we come to know about it, that what is logical bent of mind, and how we have to focus on all these 3 things to basically come up with the right answer, right? Now understand, Laksh, and in fact the whole class, you should understand that when we talk about para completion, it is basically a paragraph that has been taken from a bigger text, right? So you basically need to understand that para completion, in para completion we have a paragraph that is basically taken from a bigger text. So as I said, it has been written by somebody. So when it's taken from a bigger text, so that last line which has been removed from there is already a part of that paragraph, right? And how you can comprehend it when you get to know about the theme, when you get to know about the purpose of writing that paragraph, of writing that passage basically, of which this paragraph is a smaller part, right? And now you need to understand one thing more. For example, in a paragraph, we are talking about something in the present tense, right? And if among the answer choices, you have probably 2 statements or 2 sentences which are in the past tense. So it's basically a clue, a cue for all of us, for all of you, that whenever there is a paragraph which is in present tense, and among the answer choices, if I have 2 options, if I have 2 sentences, if I have 2 statements which are in their past tense, then surely yes, for the time being, I can eliminate those 2 options. We have already talked about process of elimination. As I discussed in some of my previous classes, that process of elimination will help you zoom at the correct and the appropriate answer. So when you came to know that 2 of my statements, 2 of my sentences are in the past tense, but the paragraph is in its present tense, then definitely yes, these 2 answer choices, maybe option A and option C, are not my answer choices for the time being, right? So I have to take care of the tenses, as I said. So my answer choice would be a statement which is in its present tense, right? But again, you need to take care of the exceptions. You need to take care of the exceptions that you will come to know when you read and comprehend the paragraph well, right? Another thing, you have to take care of the persons. For example, if it is a paragraph which has been taken from a narrative passage, for example, right? So when you talk about the narrative passage, in the narrative passage, the narrator, the author probably talks about himself, or probably he as in focuses on some of his characters, and he takes his characters as the protagonists who talk about themselves. So in that case, what happens? Either the words I or the words he or she would be used, right? So we are using the persons over here. The persons, if the person is first person singular I, then definitely yes, my answer choice should have that first person only. It cannot shift from first person to third person. So that is what I am saying. When you are thorough with, when you are very much comfortable with the grammatical rules, then definitely yes, these tips, these clues are a big help. They are a great help to you to find out the correct answer. Any confusions? Any other confusions? Any other doubts? Please ask me. Yes, Manav.
Still, I have a doubt.
Please ask me.
Can you please tell me what about the logical thinking part?
What about the logical thinking
Yes,
part?
ma'am.
All right, let me elaborate on this a little. Now see, as I said, you need to have the logical bent of mind. We have talked about it that this paragraph has been taken from a bigger text which has been written by somebody. So we need to understand the purpose and the theme of the text. We basically need to understand the main idea. We basically need to cater to the subject of the paragraph around which the whole paragraph revolves. Right. Now see, when you talk about a passage, when you talk about a paragraph, it must be talking about some concept, it must be talking about some phenomenon, it must be talking about some process, it must be talking about some maybe social issue, it might be talking about some technological advancements, right. It might be talking about some maybe social feats and all. Right. So it has to talk about something. So when we understand that what this paragraph is talking about, what is the purpose, what is the main idea, and then what we do, the last line that we put at the end as our answer choice, it should be in total sync with the theme of the paragraph. It should be in flow with the theme of the paragraph. It should be in flow with not only the theme but also with the tenses, with the persons, etc. So that flow, that sync would help you make the correct answer choice. And for that, I said that you need to have a logical bent of mind. You need to find out that what is the logical connect between the sentences and among all the sentences from the beginning to the end. Is it clear to everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Any confusions now?
No, ma'am.
Alright, so let me as in recap a little what all we have done so far. So let me write it down. You can just note it down if you want to. It's on the screen. So we are talking about para completion over here. And we said that para completion means completing a paragraph, as simple as that. And what we need to take care of is the comprehension, the comprehending skills should be there, the logical skills should be there, and we should be aware of the subtleties of grammar. The grammatical skills have to be taken care of. More than that, we have to take care of the flow of the thought process, the flow of the thoughts, the flow of the ideas that come our way when we are reading that paragraph. The flow of the thoughts, the flow of the ideas, when we come across a paragraph, we need to take care of that so that we can fit in the correct and the most appropriate sentence as my answer choice. Right. Here you need to take care of one thing more, that most of the times last line of the paragraph is deleted, but you might encounter a situation in which the first line of the paragraph is deleted and probably it starts from the second line onwards. So the rules, regulations, tips, cues, clues, everything remains the same. Right. So in generally you have to talk about the last sentence, but at times you might have to talk about the first sentence. So again that flow has to be taken care of, that grammatical rules have to be taken care of, right? So that comprehension has to be taken care of. This much is clear to everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now one thing more, how can I become good at this para completion? I can become good at this para completion by developing a good reading habit. Right? So if I read from eclectic mix, if I read from a variety of fields, definitely yes, all the three things would be taken care of automatically maybe. Right? Because as I said, I have been talking about this, that most of the times we have this gut feeling that this answer might be correct, but we do not actually know that what is the reason behind it. Right? But we have that gut feeling. So that gut feeling comes from our conditioning. Right? So when you read a paragraph, when you are in a habit of reading a lot, your mind gets used to it, your mind gets conditioned accordingly. So when you get conditioned accordingly, so probably you don't need to look for these tips, you don't need to look for these cues and clues, right? Because you have been conditioned in that way. So who will help you to condition yourself? Definitely yes, you only would be the persons who would help yourselves to be conditioned, right? So you have to develop a good reading habit, which will take care of not only the para completion kind of questions, but your reading comprehensions also. It will take care of your vocabulary also. It will eventually take care of your grammatical skills also. Right? So is it clear to everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Any confusions now?
No, ma'am.
Any questions?
No, ma'am.
So we'll take up some more points related to para completion in the very next session, right? Till then, we'll see you in the next class, but before that, don't go away. We have a certain set of questions waiting for you, right? So you can look at the screen and we'll have a certain set of questions for you. So the first question on the screen, let me read it out for you, and you also do that by the time. Since the gods are super parents and super leaders, they must necessarily have large houses in which to meet with their followers. Anyone flying low over human settlements in a spacecraft and ignorant of our ways would notice immediately that in many of the villages and towns and cities, there were one or two homes much bigger than the rest, right? So before we find out the answer, before we go to the answer choices and read them and probably try to understand them also, let's try to understand this paragraph. So can anybody tell me what did you get out of this paragraph? You can take 5 seconds more, you can reread it and try to understand it first. Yeah. Reread it, I am giving you 5 seconds, and then tell me what basically is it focusing on. What is this paragraph focusing at? That's what you have to tell me. So I will give you 5 seconds more, you can reread the paragraph, try to understand the paragraph, and then probably we'll look at the answer choices, right? So 5 seconds to you, take your time and try to find out the answer. On the screen, alright, so who will tell me what is this paragraph aiming at? What does it talk about? Yes, Saloni?
Ma'am, basically talks about the God and its supernatural powers.
Alright, so maybe it's talking about God, who is the supreme being. Definitely yes, it is talking about that, Saloni, very good. Anyone else?
Ma'am,
Yes, Manav?
ma'am, God is of greater value than the rest of the being.
Perfect, perfect, very right. Now see, Saloni has given us the correct answer and Manav has also given us a correct answer, because see, when you look at the paragraph, when you read the paragraph, whatever you make out of it, that is your perception, and that should be basically that what you decode from that paragraph. So more or less you have decoded the paragraph well. Saloni said that here we are talking about God as a supreme power. Yes, and Manav said that here we are talking about God having the greater value than the rest of the beings. Very well. Now see, before looking at the answer choices and before finding the correct and the appropriate statement to be fitted at the end of the paragraph, what we'll do, we'll read the last line of the paragraph once again, right. So, on your screen, look at your screen, yeah. Anyone flying low over human settlements in a spacecraft and ignorant of our ways would notice immediately that in many of the villages and towns and cities, there were one or two homes much bigger than the rest, right. Alright, so these homes, as I said, they could be any temples, they could be any mosques, etc. Now you have to find out that which one of the following would fit in, would be in sync with the last line also, and would be in sync with the overall theme of the paragraph also, right. So another maybe 2 to 3 seconds to you go through the statements A, B, C, D. So if you look at option A, which says these, the houses of the gods, that is the temples, the mosques, the churches and the cathedral, are buildings apparently made for giants. Now understand, if I ignore this word giants over here, then probably at first I might feel that this should be the line, this should be the sentence which would end my paragraph. Are you with me? Yes or no? Yes. Right? But if I look at this word, as I said, if I look at the last word of this sentence, that is giants. So giants is a word which means something big, something huge. We've already talked about this word in our vocabulary class, right? But giants is a word which as of now has a negative connotation, right? So we are not talking about the giants over here. We are talking about the supernatural beings, the supreme beings, the almighty. We are talking about the God. So the word giants would not fit in here, right? One thing. Another thing is that it's talking about the houses and it's simply giving the names of those houses, the houses of the gods, which we have already talked about in the paragraph. So I need to understand one thing, the idea, the statement, the thought that has already been talked about in the paragraph cannot be my answer choice. Why? Because if I do that, I am repeating the same thought, I am repeating the same idea, which I should not tend to do. Is it clear?
Yes.
Right? Alright, so now we have understood that giants would not fit in here, first thing. Another thing, as I already said, that when we talk about a paragraph, and if the statement, if the thought, if the idea that has already been talked about in the paragraph, that cannot be the last sentence of my paragraph, because I cannot repeat my thought process time and again, right. So answer choice A, as we have already marked, is not our answer choice, right. Second statement, statement B, answer option B says, mere mortals do not require buildings that large. What do you understand by the word mortals anyways? Who are mortals? Yes, Manav?
Who die.
Who die, very good. So mortal basically is someone who is subjected to death. Now this statement says, mere mortals do not require buildings that large. Don't you feel it's an irrelevant statement vis-a-vis the paragraph? Right? We are not talking about mortals, we are not talking about whether they do require some houses to live in or not. We are totally talking about something else. We are talking about the Almighty over here. So answer choice B is again not my answer. I can eliminate this. Yes? Alright. Moving ahead, option C. Let's read it out on your screen. Their followers repeatedly visit them and bow down before them, but they themselves are invisible. Their followers repeatedly visit them, bow down before them, and they themselves are invisible. Now, what is there over here and what is they over here? As in, which particular noun is the word there as a pronoun referring to, is the word there as an adjective rather referring to, and which word, which noun is the word they referring to over here? Yes, Saloni.
Ma'am, here there is referring to God.
Alright.
And they are the people who worship the God.
Perfect. Very good. Now see, when you say their followers repeatedly visit them, whose followers? The Almighty's followers. So there is referring to God, right? And the followers visit them and bow down before them, but they themselves are invisible. Who are invisible? The Almighty is invisible. Almighty is not tangible. We cannot touch Almighty. We cannot probably see Him with our eyes. We cannot hear Him. Yes, you can do that when you reach that stage, of self-actualization, right? And then you start realizing the things. And then you feel that what is God? It's nothing, it's something, it's a power within me only, right? So you take a lot of time to reach that stage. You might have read about Maslow's theory, have you? That pyramidal structure, wherein we talk about the physiological needs, we talk about the social needs, we talk about the esteem needs, right? And finally we reach that self-actualization. So by the time we reach that self-actualization stage, we probably reach somewhere else. We kick the bucket, right? We've already talked about the phrase, the idiom kick the bucket. So what I'm trying to say that in this sentence, their followers means the followers of the Almighty, and they are themselves invisible means the Almighty is invisible. The gods are invisible. So now can I take this statement as the last line of my paragraph? Because in the paragraph we are talking about the Almighty as the super parents. We are talking about the large houses in which we meet, in which He meets His followers, in which the Almighty meets His followers, the first line. And then we are again talking about one or two homes much bigger than the rest. So we are talking about the gods over here as super parents vis-a-vis the houses in which they live, vis-a-vis the places where the followers, where their followers meet them, right? So are you getting me or not? So if I keep all this thought process in my mind, I will immediately come to know about that the statement C has to fit in here because it's in flow with the ideas which have been shared in the last two lines by the author, by the writer. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So now we can make out that option C is the correct answer of my question. It is the last line of my paragraph. So let me put a tick mark over here, and I'll also discuss option D, which says the visitors would then imagine what purpose they would serve. The visitors would not then imagine, they already know that when they go to these houses, the houses of gods, probably the offerings, the prayers they offer, those prayers are answered by the Almighty, and that is the reason they go to God. So they don't have to imagine later on, after going to the house of the God. They have realized it beforehand, and that is the reason they go to the houses of God to meet them. Is it clear?
Yes,
right? So that is the reason D could again not be my answer. So my answer is option C. Question number 1, answer choice option C is the correct answer. Right? So shall we move ahead to the next question?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Yeah, question number 2. I'm giving you 10 seconds. Go through it. Let me read it out for you. And so I cried and I prayed, and as months passed, the ceiling above my bed slowly went back to being just a ceiling. Taking Lucette by the hand, I went back to school. There were hundreds of other children like me, children who had done nothing wrong and who, like me, had suffered their time coping as best as they could. Right? So what did you get out of this passage? Again the same question, because I need to ask you questions, because I need to see that how well you comprehend. Right? Yes, Saloni?
The person here is telling his first day in his school.
Okay. Anything else that is probably of much importance in this sentence? What you said is right. I am with you. There is something more to it. You can take 5 seconds more. Take your time. So I prayed, I cried. As months passed, the ceiling above my bed slowly went back to being just a ceiling. Taking Lucette by the hand, I went back to school. There were hundreds of other children like me, children who had done nothing wrong and who, like me, had suffered their time coping as best as they could. All right, so what can you make out of this paragraph? Anybody? Yes, Manav?
Ma'am, after reading this whole paragraph, I just understood, and I just want to tell you that By this, I just understood that the person who did anything wrong, then also he get always suffered. That's the only thing I understood by this paragraph.
So what you're trying to say is that the person we are talking about in this paragraph has suffered a lot.
The innocent person who did anything wrong in his life, then also he suffered.
Then he has suffered a
Yeah.
lot. Yes, very right, you've taken it very well. Anyone else? Yes, Laksh?
Ma'am, I think we are talking about a diseased child.
Okay, you think we are talking about a diseased child? Yes, I will take that also. Now see, that means you are perceiving the paragraphs well, right? So basically here, the narrator, the person is talking in first person, right? So he's saying I, so maybe he's the narrator. So he's saying that, and so I cried and prayed. As months passed, the ceiling above my bed slowly went back to being just a ceiling. That means probably all those emotions, all those you can say feelings, they went for a toss. Why? Taking Lucid by the hand, I went back to school. Maybe this small child went to school, and as Laksh said, maybe he was a diseased child. As Manav said, he had suffered a lot, having no reason to have suffered, right? So maybe he was a little, he was a child with a, he was a differently abled child, let me put it this way. Maybe he was a differently abled child, and when he went to school, he was laughed at by the rest of the students. So he never wanted to go back to school, and that was the reason he cried and he prayed to God that please let me help come out of the clutches of all these circumstances, let me help come out of the clutches of the situation, right? But finally he had to attend the school, because you know the parents also force us to go to school, and that's very right also, because we have to acquire education, we have to acquire knowledge, and school is the best medium to do that, right? So when he goes back to school, there were hundreds of other children like him, like me. The narrator is saying, children who had done nothing wrong and who like me had suffered their time coping as best as they could. So probably there were some other children also, differently abled people who had not done anything wrong, but they were also suffering like me. They were also suffering as I was suffering. Why? Because I was being laughed at by the people. I was not treated well by maybe some of my classmates. So that was a suffering for me, right? Is that clear? Fine. So now can we try to find out the answers? Looking at the options on screen, let's try to find out the answer. Option A says, if they did not ask questions, it was because they knew they would not like the answers. Who did not ask questions? What does the word they refer to over here? The other students or these students? The differently abled students?
Narrator, no?
They. It cannot be narrator, because narrator is singular. So here we are talking about the word they. It has to be a plural. It has to refer to some plural noun. Alright, let me explain it first. Here we are talking about if they did not ask questions, because we are talking about a scenario in the school. So if they did not ask questions, as in if the teachers did not ask questions from these differently abled children, why they did not ask the question? So they here refers to the teachers probably, right? Why they did not ask the question? It was because they knew they would not like the answers, because probably they had some preconceived notions in their heads. So they knew that probably these are differently abled children, so they would not be the best ones to give us the right answers, right? So they would not like the answers. That is why they would not even ask the questions to these kind of students, right? Now moving ahead to option B, let's discuss the options first, and then let's find out which one would fit in, right? So option B says, at night in the darkness I brooded on my sadness. At night in the darkness I brooded on my sadness. This probably could be one of my options, which says, the narrator is saying over here, at night I will just ponder over my sadness, कि ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है मेरे साथ, which might be one of my answer choices. So as of now, as I said, it might be one of my answer choices. Moving on to the C part, I had loved this town all my life and today I had to leave it. So probably maybe it is the last line of the story from which this paragraph has been taken. But right now we are not aware of any town over here. We are not actually aware of what all this person, this child went through in his life and why he had to leave the town. So right now, as of now, this should not be my answer choice, option C, because it's far away from the concept, from the thought process which has been discussed in these 2 to 3 lines. Yes? Are you with me? Yes, ma'am. Perfect. Then option D says, the tension was palpable, the anger almost burnt the walls. So again, as of now, we have not come across any kind of anger shown by any of the teachers or shown by any of these differently abled child in this paragraph which is given to us. So again, it might be a line which would follow some other lines, right? But this would not be a line which would immediately follow the paragraph which we have in front of us. Is it clear? So D is again not my answer. Now I have to zero down, I have to zoom at the appropriate answer, and my answer will lie in between option A and option B. So what do you people feel that which one should be the correct answer? I suppose Manav has the correct answer because he is in a hurry to give me the answer. Yes, Manav, come up here.
Ma'am, answer of this question should be A. I'm damn sure.
You're damn sure about it that it should be. Okay, let me ask your friends also. What do you people feel? Answer should be A?
Yes, ma'am.
Everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Alright. Now let me also take the answer as A because the answer is actually A, right? Which says if they did not ask questions, it was because they knew that they would not like the answers, because we are talking about a scenario of the school. So option B, which says at night in the darkness I brooded over my sadness. First thing is that we have used a past tense over here. I brooded. But my paragraph doesn't talk about that. My paragraph says, had suffered their time coping as the best as they could. I brooded over my sadness would be, as in when I am talking about that point of time. Here if I had said I would brood over my sadness, then probably it would have been correct. So here I am talking about something that is happening in the school. So that is the reason answer choice A should be the appropriate answer over here and not the answer choice B, which is the another phase which will follow probably this phase, the things which are happening at school. Is it clear to everybody? Yes, ma'am. Alright, with this we are through with the first session of para completion. We'll come up with some more concepts, as I said, with some more, you can say, practice sessions also, with some more set of questions to be answered, right? So till then, wish you all the best, wish you luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
To watch the next video, please attempt the following questions. Question number 1 on your screen. The instructions say, the last sentence has been deleted from the paragraph given below. From among the given options, choose the one that completes the paragraph in the most appropriate manner. So here is the paragraph. Persons do not become a society by living in physical proximity any more than a man ceases to be socially influenced by being so many feet or miles removed from others. A book or a letter may institute a more intimate association between human beings, separated thousands of miles from each other, than exists between dwellers under the same roof. Individuals do not even compose a social group because they all work for a common end. The parts of a machine work with a maximum of cooperativeness for a common result, but they do not form a community. If, however, they were all cognizant of the common end and all interested in it, so that they regulated their specific activity in view of it, then they would form a community. But this would involve communication. Each would have to know what the other was about and would have to have some way of keeping the other informed as to his own purpose and progress, thereby communicating overall progress. Now your answer choices are: option A says consensus demands communication. Option B says there is a compelling reason to believe that within even the most social group there are many relations which are not as yet social. Option C, individuals use one another so as to get desired results without reference to the emotional and intellectual disposition and consent of those used. Option D, not only is social life identical with communication, but all communication and hence all genuine social life is educative. Option E, society is thus made or marred by effective communication. Now let's move on to question number 2. Zero has had a long history. The Babylonians invented the concept of zero. The ancient Greeks debated it in lofty terms. How could something be nothing? The ancient Indian scholar Pingala paired 0 with the numeral 1 to get double digits, and both the Mayans and Romans made 0 a part of their numeral systems. But 0 finally found its place around AD 498 when the Indian astronomer Aryabhat sat up in bed one morning and exclaimed, "Sthanam sthanam dasagunam," which translates roughly as place to place in 10 times in value. With that, the idea of decimal based place value notion was born. Now you need to find the last line of this paragraph among the options given. Option A says, now 0 was on a roll. Option B says, now 0 spread to the Arab world. Option C says, 0 ultimately found plenty of employment together with digit 1. Option D says, 0 ultimately flourished in Silicon Valley. Question number 3 in front of your screen. Given below is a paragraph from which the first sentence has been deleted. Now students, you have to be careful that in this question the first sentence has been deleted, unlike the first 2 questions in which the last sentences were deleted. From the given options, choose the one that begins the paragraph in the most appropriate way. Here is your paragraph. Owned by the Wrigleys, this magnificent piece of art had walls made from Portland stone. The open lobby was about 40 feet by 32 feet with 4 pillars that supported the first floor. 15 bedrooms containing unique mahogany woodwork, 5 splendid dining areas, and a picturesque lawn adorned this property. It was an unknown architect's brilliant creation that displayed a refined taste and superior technical knowledge. Options are: A. For centuries, the Wrigleys family had bought numerous properties all over the world. Option B. The Wrigleys' mansion was one of the best properties in this area. Option C. The mansion was not too different from any others in this part of the country. Option D. Its architectural beauty had drawn many admirers from all over the world.